Hello, I am Adrianna Anderson, a recreation therapist and the host of this podcast. So, in this podcast, we talk about all things recreation, leisure, and wellness. As I take you on this journey, we are going to learn how to cultivate your moments. So, in today's episode, I will be reintroducing the podcast for season 2. So, believe it or not, I started this podcast back in 2020 at the peak of the pandemic. And now, after working in the field, I'm excited to relaunch this podcast and pivot what I hope this podcast will aspire to be and talk about what influenced that. I'm excited to see what will come from this and share that with you. So let's get started on where have I been the last 2 years? What have I been up to and how have I been doing? So right after airing my last podcast, I completed my school for recreation therapy and got my certificate to train as a rec therapist in Alberta as well as Canada. So since then, I've been working as a recreation therapist, working with older adults in supported living with dementia. This has been a whole journey, which I will get really far into as we proceed through this. So working as a young professional, I felt a lot of imposter syndrome, so had to work through a lot of that while also creating and revamping programs. Outside of work and outside of schooling, I've also been doing a lot of personal growing and healing and transforming. Through working through imposter syndrome, lots of other things came up. And on top of that, balancing being a new professional, now not in school, with my personal leisure pursuits and working full time, trying to juggle that work-life balance while not feeling guilty that I have this time to explore my personal leisure. I think talking with lots of friends and coworkers, as well as past students, a common thing for young professionals is to feel really weird when you have this extra time on the weekends or in the evenings, because in school we almost become engulfed in this ongoing hustle and grind mentality that you always have to keep going. You have to feel like you're completing something and being productive. So it was a lot of unlearning of that and relearning, what things can I do in the evenings and on the weekends that will benefit me so I can show up the best for my friends, for my family, and of course, for my clients and for myself. So going back to work, I have been a preceptor for 2 lovely students, which has been really exciting to share my knowledge with them. And I'm excited to have 5 more in May and June. So that's going to be very, very busy. And I'm excited not only to be working with recreation therapy students, but also mental health practitioner students, which is new to me. So with this break, with working in the field, working on myself, what have I learned over the last 2 years? Well, I could probably go on and on and on about this, but we're going to keep it a little bit shorter today. So a big thing that I kind of touched on was working through those work boundaries and ensuring I'm taking time for myself and figuring out what fills my cup and really practicing what I preach in recreation therapy and applying it to myself and trying to juggle thinking about work all the time because I'm very passionate and excited, with also taking time to recharge and do what's beneficial for me. And through that, I've really, really, really seen the benefit of both recreation and leisure. So in past podcasts, I broke these down and talked about recreation as very structured things. So I go to a exercise class this day of the week. It's very structured. There's goals involved. There's objectives I'm trying to meet. And then leisure, maybe it's been a hard day and I just need to unwind and maybe I just need to watch some TV or read a book or go for a little walk, and the goal of that just to simply be in that activity, not to have this huge goal that I'm trying to work towards, rather just the goal be enjoying that moment. And being really present has been something that has really helped me recharge as a professional in a helping career. You're always on the go. And so just taking time to relax and sink into what I need in that moment, and being my own advocate for, okay, I'm having a really tiring day, I need to recharge. Which things are going to recharge me today? And really turning that reflection internally and those practices internally and asking myself what's best for me in that moment, which has really helped me lean into being a better professional too, because now I have that further insight to ask and assess my residents with that and clients with that. Do they need something more energetic? Do they need something more calming? And seeing what suits their needs in that moment. Also, in working in a helping profession, different things come up. You're having lots of things that you're learning, as well as just the act of caring for others can be tiring. And so taking time to take breaks and ask for help or support from my friends, from professionals, has been so vital in making sure that I'm my best and can show up the best I can each day at work, as well as just for myself. I think the last 2 years have been such a huge focus on, I need to put my own oxygen mask on first. I need to make sure I'm taking care of myself so that when a problem arises at work, when something is stressful, I can instantly react in a positive and helpful manner and make sure that I'm showing up the way I want to and what's best for my clients in those moments. Also, I think a huge thing while working as a professional has been continuing my education and continuing to evaluate my programs, as well as my personal leisure, because like I said, some things are going to be working for me, some things are going to be working for my clients, and as the seasons change, as the days go on, some things may change as well. So constantly continuing to educate myself on how I can be my best through learning about different personal wellness, personal self-help things, reading different books, learning different things from podcasts, from YouTubers, from profound authors, or researching personally for myself and what works for me, what different activities or practices may be beneficial for me, and then also seeing what things I can translate and help with my client with that, or trying to find different program materials for my clients. I'm really excited to be attending the Canadian Therapeutic Recreation Association conference coming up this week in Jasper, which will be so much fun and such a great learning opportunity. I think continuing learning is so exciting and something I'm so passionate about, and something you'll hear a bit more right away here. So next, where am I going from here? So I have kind of shared, why I took that break, what I've learned from that break, and now where am I going from here? I'm relaunching the podcast. I've rebranded my logo. I've rebranded my website. Where am I going from here? Is there a change in direction? Is there anything to expect? So I'm excited, really, really excited, and something I have been working on for so long and considering for so long is relaunching the podcast, and not knowing when, not knowing how, not knowing if I should pivot in any specific ways. And for me, in these past 2 years, I have really loved podcasts such as Being Well or On Purpose, and ones that have a strong root in positive psychology and psychology in bettering ourselves and personal development, while also thinking outside of the box of that, not containing themselves to only that. And I think that is something that may have limited me in the podcast before, is I was thinking so much on recreation therapy because I love it, that I forgot that everybody does their own recreation, everybody does their own leisure. And I'm really excited to open up and broaden this podcast into really personal development and personal wellness, and definitely having a strong emphasis on recreation and leisure and activities and hobbies being an important part of that, but also opening it up to learning about nutrition maybe in the future, or learning about exercise and what exercise is beneficial and the different thought patterns to have during exercise, and really broadening that compass so that we can all get something out of it, not just those working in recreation therapy, because the field of recreation therapy is still very small. And I hope with this podcast I can advocate for the benefit of recreation and leisure in our own lives and in the clients' lives that those of us help. Next, I'm really excited to share that in the fall, I will be attending the University of Lethbridge online while working as a recreation therapist. I really want to pursue the degree and maybe even a postgraduate degree afterwards, because I'm so passionate about recreation therapy. I would love to do research, write books in the field, and teach about recreation therapy one day. I think as a professional, having students, it really showed me how important and excited I get when I'm teaching about recreation therapy and the benefits of it, even if it's personally, which this podcast is a great way to do that, but also teaching new students how important recreation therapy can be on their own selves is so important to me and so foundational for me as well. And something I've taken on at work is staff education, and doing staff education specifically on recreation therapy, which I'm so excited. It is something that, like I said, that continuing education, I'm continuing to push myself and expand and take on more things at work as I feel more comfortable and competent in each role I'm taking on. The next thing I'm really excited about of where I'm going to be going in the future is connecting with individuals again. My passion, my purpose is really connecting with people, and I find through connecting, through sharing stories and learning from others' experiences, I also learn and understand myself and my life and my clients so much more. So whether that be talking with other recreation therapists in the field, maybe other therapists, or different fields, maybe it's something completely out of scope like nutrition, it still impacts our wellness, leisure. Cooking and baking could be a component of leisure and a component of our recreation. And I think broadening this, I'm excited to really push the boundaries of what recreation therapy is and what we can gain and understand as recreation therapists and as people just interested in having a fulfilling and meaningful life outside of just work, outside of just their profession or their career. We can focus on having this really impactful and meaningful life while doing our leisure pursuits and doing activities that we love, and how important and how much that affects our career and other things that we're doing in life. I feel that really broadening this connection and broadening this audience, I think we can really understand the power of recreation and leisure and how recreation and leisure truly impacts and affects everyone, and how everyone has a different perspective on it, and how those different perspectives can open our eyes to different ways we can see it. So in closing, I am really excited to be shifting gears, as I personally found a lot of benefit from leaning into my leisure pursuits and learning about them, while also benefiting from just learning about personal growth and development and focusing on self-discovery and what that means for me and what different things are out there for that, because it really is endless what recreation and leisure can impact, as well as what can impact our recreation and leisure. So it's a two-way scope. So many things can impact us from not doing as many activities, but so many things can be impacted by doing those activities. So I hope that this podcast can really aid in individuals' lives and their personal journeys and teach them about practical implications the field and the concepts of recreation therapy can have on their lives. And if you would like to be on this podcast or have any suggestions for podcast topics, please get a hold of me. I'm really excited to announce the relaunch as well as to announce that I am now on Patreon as well. So if you would like to support me and my pursuit in this podcast and the creations of it, please click the link below and help support me in the creations of this podcast, because thus far I've just been doing it out of personal interest and passion, and I still have all that passion, but there is costs associated with creating a podcast. So without further ado, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the relaunch and the relaunch episode of this podcast. I can't wait to have so many amazing guests. And like I said before, if you would like to be on this podcast, please get a hold of me. I would love to hear your perspective on recreation and leisure and how it has had an impact on your life. So until later, take care and have a great day.